Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Sports Network, GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering City defeating Chelsea 2-0. We'll talk about Chelsea signing Felix and Conor Gallagher being sent the other way. We'll talk about Barcelona defeating Hansi Flick and Barcelona defeating Valencia and Hansi Flick's opening La Liga match as manager of Barcelona. We'll talk about this new look Real Madrid drawing 1-1 with Mallorca, and then we'll do what we do always, and that's talking about some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that y'all like and follow the show. Also, if you've got a question during the show, please use the GSMCpodcast.net to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. There's also a new thing we're doing. If you got a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes the show great, and we thrive on your energy and insight. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking, hit that super chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to the GSMCpodcast.net, as I was saying earlier, to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We move on, though, to talk about City, to react to Manchester City. They have defeated Chelsea 2-0 in their opening game of the Premier League for these two clubs. This game was being played at Stamford Bridge. And if you read the statistics, 10 shots for Chelsea compared to 11 for City. 5 shots on target for City compared to 3 for Chelsea. 52% possession for City compared to 48% from Chelsea. And Chelsea also had more expected goals in this game. So in terms of general play within the 90 minutes, not really a domination for Manchester City, maybe the likes that we were expecting. But if we were being real with Manchester City, they played, they didn't play Kyle Walker, Phil Foden, John Stones, Ake, a lot of the players that were involved in the European Championship run. He allowed them to rest. He gave them a little bit more time off, and he went in with the likes of Savio, Mateo Kovacic, Rico Lewis, a little bit of a makeshift team to allow some of these players that have been playing deep into the European Championship. Allow some of the players that play deep into the European Championship to rest in this game. And I have to say, how many teams can realistically rest that's 4 starters essentially. Ake, Stones, Kyle Walker, Phil Foden. That's essentially 4 people that are expected to be in the first level rested in this game against a team like Chelsea, who finished 6th last year, but a team that overall still has a lot of quality, or a good amount of quality, a lot of quality. They just haven't got it together. You're playing a team with a lot of quality at their bridge and at their stadium in Stamford Bridge. You're going away to London, and you're able to, with the makeshift team, get the 3 points and get it in a comfortable fashion, winning 2-0. How many teams in the Premier League can do that? No team can. You want to compare this to Arsenal when they were going up against Wolves. Arsenal going up against Wolves at home, Bukayo Saka, he was involved. Declan Rice, he was involved, you know. Kai Havertz, who also made a run at the European Championship, he was involved. He was involved and was part of the front 11 because Arsenal can't afford to do what Manchester City does. And that's just the nature. That's just the nature of it. That's just the nature of it. You know, Liverpool at the same time. Luis Diaz, he made a run to the Copa America final. He was involved. He was part of the setup. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he was on that England team that reached the European Championship final. He was involved. Yeah, I know he didn't play much after the first two games, but still, only a team like Manchester City is afforded to do that. Only a manager like Pep Guardiola is afforded to do that with the amount of quality this team has. And yes, within the 90 minutes, they didn't particularly dominate. But at the end of the day, you're going away on Stamford Bridge. You have a makeshift team. You get the 3 points. It's a professional result for Manchester City. And it just shows the quality from the team and the depth that the team has. As far as Chelsea, another opening day disappointing result. 2-0 loss to Manchester City. Or another disappointing result, period. 2-0 loss to City. Didn't really get dominated the way I expected them to get dominated. Although I assumed that Guardiola was going to go with the full-strength team. In this opening day, he didn't. But, you know, some of the same problems that Chelsea has had, that lack of finisher, that lack of player in the right areas at the right time as the number 9. You know, Nicholas Jackson, he has energy and he runs around and he provides pace, but a little bit of quality in terms of him as a goal scorer is not there. He had one great play where he was able to slip in. I believe he slipped in Nkunku in behind, I believe. I believe so. But apart from that, you know, it was, you know, they had a few opportunities here and there to get on there for Chelsea to, you know, a decent opportunity here and there, but just the lack of the goal scorer, not being able to be at the right place at the right time to touch at home. And just the same issues from Chelsea. Robert Sanchez looked shocking. Very, very underwhelming. Very, very nervous in goal. Again, I say this, you sign all these goalkeepers. You have about 4 or 5 goalkeepers at the club, but none of them are really at that level to be the goalkeeper of Chelsea. You go to striker, you have, you have Nicholas Jackson, and you got, and then you got another few players that are, could be, involved as the striker position, but they're not good enough. Armando Broja, in fact, in terms of pure number 9s, the only one that was even good enough to make the squad, period, was Nicholas Jackson, and he was in the starting 11. There was nobody on the bench there that Enzo Maresca could have turned to play that sort of position through the middle. Nkunku, he could have played that role, but yeah, just another disappointing performance from Chelsea. But I will say, they were able, they had a foot in the game. They did not get played out of the park. Now, there were certain places that were concerning, of course. Like, again, Enzo Fernandez. Again, another poor, disappointing performance from Enzo Fernandez. Now the captain armband, despite what happened at in the Argentinian bus or whatever, despite those, that situation, he's been named captain. He's the leader. And, he looked naked in midfield. Didn't provide anything. Caicedo, he was decent. He was okay, but he didn't play to this level. I thought the best midfielder was Romeo Lavia, who's actually pretty good. Played a few good balls. And he was efficient in terms of spreading the ball around. And yeah, I thought until he ended up getting replaced, I thought he was decent. I think he was the best player in the midfield. But again, Enzo's performance again, it just seems like Enzo just can't get his foot on the right spot at Chelsea. And eventually the criticism has to come, because it just hasn't been good enough, Enzo, at Chelsea. It has not been good enough. And again, it's another disappointing start. from him, and that's very, very disappointing because this is a critical season for him. Another thing is Nkunku playing on the left-hand side. He didn't get involved enough, especially in that first half. Until he was replaced by Neto, there was not much that we saw from him. These are some disappointing things. Another thing, Cole Palmer playing in an unnatural position, playing on the winger, not unnatural. He's played that before. He played that a lot actually at Manchester City originally, playing off that right-hand side, cutting in on his left foot. But the thing is, what he was able to do deadly at Chelsea was being able to pick the ball up in midfield and have space to run and find opportunities to play the ball in behind or to get past the man and open up an opportunity for himself even. That's where he was. That's what he did all his damage last season, playing that sort of central midfielder role. But now you have Romeo Lavia coming back. You want to, put him into the midfield of Caicedo and Enzo, which I think either way, that still lacks a little bit, that still lacks that, creativeness there. Because, look, you do have the athleticism of the legs of Caicedo and Lavia, but Enzo Fernandez playing advanced in front of them, he's not mobile enough to be number 10. I don't think he has that. I think he's a creative player, but he doesn't have that number 10 sort of flair, number 10 sort of creativity. So I think playing him in an attacking midfielder role, he's not mobile enough to really be, threatening in those areas. I think he's an 8. The problem with Chelsea is right now they have 2 8s, and Romeo Lavia, who I don't really know, he seems like a 6. That's what his profile is, but someone that we need to see more of. I don't think those 3 work together in midfield. I think Cole Palmer has to play in an attacking midfield position to be even more deadly. Because in this half, he didn't really, in this game, he didn't really, but he wasn't really in dangerous areas that he could have affected the game in the same ways that he was last season. And yeah, there's a lot of concerning things now. And then you have João Félix coming in, and Pedro Neto is gonna start warranting a starting position. It's just gonna get even more tricky for Enzo Maresca. And I have to say, there's been some big things that Enzo Maresca has had to do right now. Dropping Sterling from the squad in that opening game. We saw what Sterling came out. His group came out. I guess his representatives came out and said. He also handed Enzo Fernandez the armband, despite the tension going on with that situation. Now he's going to have some big calls because Pedro Neto, he's going to start warranting a starting position because of the quality that a player like him has. João Félix is also coming in, who is also another tricky player in terms of where do you really put him. It's going to be a lot of decisions to come, and we'll continue on to discuss those decisions in the next segment, because we're going to be talking about João Félix coming back to Chelsea and Gallagher being sent the other way to Atlético. So short break here coming up, and when we come back, we'll be discussing the situation with João Félix going to Chelsea.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we talked about City defeating Chelsea 2-0. We're moving on to react to Chelsea. Again, this time they have completed the signing with João Félix, which is finally gonna allow Conor Gallagher to go the other way. He's gonna be flying back to Madrid. He probably has already as we spoke, and he's gonna become an Atlético Madrid player. He's gonna become an Atlético Madrid player. By the way, funny thing about Conor Gallagher is during the match against City, Chelsea fans were chanting Conor Gallagher 20 minutes into the game. Which shows the unrest that Chelsea fans have had over the treatment of not only of Conor Gallagher, but also the treatment of Trevor Chalobah, two players that have given everything for the club in terms of coming up the youth ranks, doing their all for the team, being one of their more consistent performers over the past few seasons. Both being essentially kicked out of Chelsea because of the fact that they came up the youth ranks and they're looked at as pure profit from this new ownership group, which it's not just this ownership group. I think this is something Chelsea have been under the last ownership group as well to a certain extent. It's very interesting how Chelsea have done business. I look at this João Félix signing and I basically look at they try to get a deal done for a player that scored 8 goals, I believe, or something, a ridiculously low number. Not 8 goals, probably something. Let me see. Samu Omorodian scored 8 goals. Yeah, scored 8 goals in 34 matches for Alaves. On loan at Alaves this past season. In 34 matches, scored 8 goals. They're trying to sign him originally. That deal, for some reason, doesn't get through. We still don't have exactly the details on why that deal hasn't gone through, why it was collapsed. It was set to... I heard there was conflicting reports. One said contractual issues, but who knows? Whatever, that deal did not go through in the later stages. And it put Atletico Madrid in a desperate situation because they had to get that deal done. They needed the money coming in for that deal to be able to sign Conor Gallagher. To be able to sign Conor Gallagher, they needed the money for that to get through. That did not happen. So hence they despite having Conor Gallagher in Madrid, done the medical and all that, they couldn't put it pen to paper. Which put Atletico in a desperate situation. So they offered Chelsea Conor Gallagher. They offered Chelsea João Félix to make this happen. And Chelsea were like, "Oh, you don't want him? Yeah, okay, we'll take him. I guess we'll take him." Which is, I don't think that's how a proper club should run their club. They should go after the players that they want, not the players that have been offered to them. From the way it's played out, that's essentially what it seemed like, and it's really devastating for a club like Chelsea. That's really very, very devastating for a club like Chelsea. That's not how a club like Chelsea should behave, in my opinion. That should not be the transfer policy for Chelsea. They shouldn't be buying players just so they can offload someone else. And that's essentially what they're doing. And again, they look at Conor Gallagher as you know, as a pure profit. But if you're having to sign a player that you originally did not want to make this happen, well, that's not really pure profit then. That's not a pure profit. You know what I mean? It's really weird. And again, you're bringing in a João Félix who you had on loan about a year ago now. You had him on loan, or a year and a half ago. You had him on loan. You had a good look at him, and you decided to not sign him permanently. Now suddenly you want him back, and it's a player that comes in and he's kinda doesn't solve the issue that Chelsea has. He's another good player, good technical player, has his gifts, but doesn't have that knack of scoring goals, and that's what Chelsea need in terms of if there's any players that they need in terms of attacking position, it's a player that can get the ball into the back of the net. Now João Félix, he can play on the ball with time and space compressed. He's very, very technically gifted, but he's not a player that scores 25 goals for you. He does not have that sort of ability, and he plays in a position that's going to make it even more tricky to Enzo Maresca to fit him in, because you already have Nkunku, who plays very, very similar position to him, very similar profile in terms of a player like him. Now Nkunku is a little bit more of a threat to score a goal than João Félix. I think João Félix is a little bit more technical, while Nkunku is a little bit more of a direct player, a little bit more of an athletic player, while João Félix is a little bit more silky and technical. But in terms of the role that they play, very similar role, very similar play style, similar profile, similar places on the pitch that they want to play. And Nkunku is essentially a new signing for Chelsea in the fact that he barely played last season. So having to now fit him and João Félix and Pedro Neto, and you can't forget about Cole Palmer, and and then you have Nicholas Jackson, who's playing the striker position. Then you got a guy like Pedro Neto, that's another new signing that cannot be someone that's going to get into that 11. And then you also have guys like $100 million like Mikhailo Mudryk, $100 million player Mikhailo Mudryk. You have a player like Raheem Sterling that didn't even get in the squad today. So he wasn't even in the squad today. You have this overbloated squad. It raises more questions than to be asked. Gary Neville, he put it in a very smart way what he said. Gary Neville, what does this Chelsea ownership group know that all the other big clubs don't know? These Real Madrids, that's a crazy thing to say second. The Real Madrids, the Manchester Uniteds, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, the Barcelonas, the Bayern Munich, all these big clubs in the world. What does Chelsea know that allows them to spend the amount of players that they have throughout the squad and give all these long contracts as a way to ease out the fees that they're being spread out? What do these Chelsea owners know that these other top owners or these other top football operations that run the football operations of these top clubs, what do they know that the others don't? And what, as Chelsea fans, what makes us, based on what they've done so far to our club, what makes us trust them? Now, you already see a little bit of the unrest between what happened with Conor Gallagher and what happened at Conor Gallagher and what's happening to Trevor Chalobah. But I'll tell you what, Chelsea ownership, this new Chelsea ownership, they're in it for a rude awakening, because the unrest is only going to continue if Chelsea fans don't see reasonable results this season that give us some sort of optimism going forward. The protests are going to start. There's going to be a serious unrest, and Chelsea fans will be demanding answers and will be demanding owners being out. They will start the protest that you've seen at Manchester United over the past few years. It'll only get worse from here. That 20 minutes into the season, that Chelsea fans chanting Conor Gallagher's name is only the start of the results don't come for Chelsea. Now they can hide all the mistakes that they made. This ownership group of some of these players can finally play to their potential. I'm talking about the likes of Enzo, likes of Caicedo, likes of Mikhailo Mudryk. These sort of players, if they can perform to the level that they're supposed to perform at, a lot of this can be looked over. But if the results don't start coming, if these players don't start developing into players that, that they were paid to be, I can see some major unrest. And Conor Gallagher being sent the other way real quick, perfect addition for Atletico Madrid, getting that worksman-like midfielder in there that can go in, do the job technically enough to play in that midfield, also has the work rate, can give you flexibility, play as a 10, an 8, even a 6. Perfect player for Diego Simeone. He's fluid, he's flexible. I think Simeone loves that about him, loves the work rate he puts in. I think that's a perfect signing. And him going in with Leon Alvarez, I think makes them a very, very good team. I know that they drew with Villarreal 2-2, disappointing results, but, don't sleep on Atletico Madrid. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about Barcelona defeating Valencia and Hansi Felix opening La Liga game.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we talked about Chelsea signing Felix and Gallagher being sent the other way. We move on to talk about Barcelona. They defeated Valencia in Hansi Flick's opening La Liga match as manager, behind 2 goals from Robert Lewandowski, a penalty in the 49th minute, and a second goal in the 45 in stoppage time at the end of the first half. Right after, actually, Hugo Doro getting the opening goal for Valencia. Hugo Doro getting the opening goal for Valencia. 2 quick goals from Robert Lewandowski after one being a penalty. They win their opening match 2-1 at the The Stadio Messiah happens to be a difficult place for top La Liga clubs to go through. They have a great atmosphere there. It's really electric. It's beautiful to watch, but it wasn't enough to see Valencia past Barcelona. Robert Lewandowski, there's been a little bit talks about him regarding him probably not, him being a little bit on the decline. This past season, having 19 goals in 35 matches, looked at a little bit of a down season for him. But he's came back firing, scoring 2 goals, doing it in great fashion as well, pushing your team back. And the goals came at a critical position, conceding a goal late in the first half that Barcelona did, losing 1-0. That's always the worst time to concede late in the extra time, because it sticks with you at halftime and it just makes you get back much quicker. But being able to get those 2 goals right afterwards, right before, it just completely changes everything. All the psychological blow that the Barcelona players were feeling in those few minutes just gets shifted onto the Valencia players, and the Valencia players are going to halftime thinking, how in the heck are we down right now? After scoring that late in the first half, how are we the ones that are down? And yeah, Robert Lewandowski, he was the difference, that little bit of quality that a player like him can provide, and it was great. It was great for him. Speaking of the statistics of this game, 18 shots for Barcelona to 6 for Valencia, 6 shots on target for Barcelona to 2 on target for Valencia, 65% possession for Barcelona to 35% for Valencia. Being able to be comfortable, being able to dominate the play in terms of having the majority of chances, having the majority of possession, creating more opportunities, being able to do that on the road. It's really a great performance for Barcelona. Great way to open up the season. Great campaign. And again, I can't stress enough, conceding the goal that they did late in the first half, and being able to bounce back of it, after VAR ended up ruling it a goal, because originally it was not a goal, the opening Valencia goal, I believe it was who kept them on side, Martinez, Inigo Martinez. And by the way, this is also a new back line, Inigo Martinez and Pau Guparasi. And then Bade, him being back, he's been out for a while last year, playing the left back role. It's a little bit of a makeshift sort of back line. We're used to the likes of Andreas Christensen and Julian Araujo is going to be out for a while. So it's going to be a little bit of a transition for Barcelona. And by the way, another thing I didn't mention, there was a poor mistake in the first half after they conceding that opening goal by Ter Stegen, underplaying a ball to Jules Koundé, and it led to an opportunity for Hugo Doro, who got the opening goal to double the lead to get a second goal for himself. And I believe it was Pau Guparasi that deflected it off the line, which, you go down 2-0, it completely changed the game. And then immediately, soon after, the goal came from Robert Lewandowski to equalize. After a ball gets played in by Bade, gets deflected back into the path of Lewandowski by Lamine Yamal, and then Lewandowski does what he does best. Was it Lamine Yamal or was it Rafinha? No, that was Lamine Yamal to equalize. And then actually, at the start of the second half, Lewandowski getting the penalty to make it 2-1 at the start of the second half just completely takes the psychological blow and puts it right onto the Valencia players, and it changes the game for them. And again, I have to say, impressive performance from Barcelona in this sort of opening day fixture, being able to in this opening day fixture, being able to be the dominant team on the road with a new manager in the first game, not having your marquee signing as well because of the fact that Dani Olmo wasn't being able to be registered, and they had to ease themselves in. Barcelona created a lot of opportunities, but early on they didn't create good opportunities. A lot of them came from prayer shots from distance, but they eased themselves into the game and they started creating a little bit more space, trying to break down Valencia's low block. And, Valencia, they're able to get that second goal that was cleared off the line by Kubarasi after the poor mistake by I'm forgetting names today, by Ter Stegen. That completely changes the game. And then they'll play extremely low block. They'll make things hella difficult, remove the spaces for them, and it'll make it very difficult for Barcelona. But that goal doesn't get through. Immediately after, you get the response for Barcelona. Again, it just completely shifts it, completely changes the game. And it's a great performance for Barcelona. It's great for Hansi Flick to start off. This is a good start to the season for them. Hansi Flick, he made a triple change throughout the game, bringing in Pedri, which was his return from injury. And Pedri also, he looked very fit. He looked like himself, and he was able to create a lot of opportunities. He played him some great passes, which was a very, very good sign because Pedri, came off slow off of injuries, and he suffered a lot of injuries, and sometimes it took a little bit for him to get back going. But what we saw that 20-minute cameo, I was very, very, very impressed, and I thought he moved the ball all over the pitch, and he was excellent, and it's a great start for Barcelona. They had a few missed opportunities as well, but the missed opportunities didn't end up costing them, because at the end of the day, in the opening game, the most important, and a lot of teams, they don't look their best in the opening game. Barcelona looked really, really good, and so it's a great start for Barcelona under Hansi Flick, and getting 3 points away at the Mestalla against Valencia is a very impressive result. And a great job for Barcelona. Great start for Hansi Flick, and I think this could be the start of a very, very good season for them. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about Real Madrid drawing Mallorca 2-2 or 1-1.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we talked about Barcelona defeating Valencia in their first La Liga match as manager. We move on to talk about Real Madrid. Should this new-look Real Madrid be concerned after their 1-1 draw against Mallorca? Let's pull up the statistics of this game. So Real Madrid, they went away to Mallorca at the Estadi Mallorca Son Moix, if I'm pronouncing right, and it was a 1-1 draw. Real Madrid had 13 shots to 12 shots for Mallorca, 5 shots on target for each team, 67% possession for Real Madrid compared to 33% for Mallorca. But despite the dominance in position, still, had the same amount of shot targets, had, close to the same amount of shots. And there was some interesting comments from Carlo Ancelotti, some scathing comments over Real Madrid, over the disappointing result, and it was a weird game. Real Madrid wasn't as fit and firing as we expected them. The Mbappe, Rodrigo, Vinicius front three did not look as fluid as we expected it to. There was a screenshot I saw. There was this one moment in the game where all three of those players were on the left-hand side, because that's generally where all three of those players play their best football. Vinicius, he plays on the left-hand side. That's where he's played at his entire career. Mbappe, yes, there's times that he's played through the middle, but he's made it publicly and abundantly clear. He finds himself best at. He feels more comfortable playing at the left-hand side, which means he will naturally shift there as the game progresses. And then Rodrigo, we were set to start, listed as a right winger. We found him a few times in the game on the left-hand side. In fact, the goal for Real Madrid, the opening goal for Real Madrid that came in the 13th minute came from from Rodrigo. He happened to be on the left-hand side of the game and of play when he was able to get that goal, cutting in onto his left foot. And again, you know who was there? Who were all there on that left hand side? Bellingham, Mbappe, Rodrigo, Vinicius, all on that left side. All of them. You know, in fact, the way that goal was created, Rodrigo was, occupying the middle of this pitch, because Mbappe drifted to the left hand side and he was occupying the space that Mbappe left. He sees the ball a little loose in the box. He from the center of the playing through the middle, he then sprints out to the loose ball. Kind of runs into Vinicius in the path, kind of almost took the ball away from him, but Vinicius is able to get on the end of it, who backheels Rodrigo, and then he cuts in off the left-hand side into the goal. And again, it just shows that it's, they're all naturally play best on the right-hand side, cutting on the left-hand side, cutting onto their right foot. So it's going to be a tricky scenario that Ancelotti has to manage throughout the season, whether or not he deems that he's going to have to send one of the players on the bench and bring on someone who can naturally play off the right-hand side, onto, like someone who can do that is Brahim Diaz. Brahim Diaz is a left-footed player. We saw him. He scored that wicked goal with his left foot in the Champions League. I believe it was against Leipzig. He's a right winger that cuts in onto his left foot. That's the sort of player that might have to find himself there. Arda Güler, he also is a left-footed player. Because these players, they want to play the similar position, and maybe it's not the right balance. And Bellingham too, he plays sort of in center midfield, but he, plays a little bit more on the left side because he's also wanting to cut onto his right foot too. So, and he's playing in that attacking midfield role, and we see him sometimes also drift into that left-hand side. So it just gets a little unbalanced there, and they're also throughout periods of the game, despite having a lot of possession, they're not moving it fast enough. They're very lethargic. It's very slow. They need to speed up the tempo sometimes because it just makes it easy for a team like Mallorca that wants to sit in, that wants to play in transition. It makes it easy for them when they're moving the ball side to side and not really playing the forward balls and not moving the ball quick enough, because that's how you're going to beat a low block. You're not going to be able to beat a low block by slowly moving it from one end to the next. You got to be fast. You got to have one-touch sort of football. We didn't see that from Real Madrid. It was very, very slow and lethargic, and the game was so boring. You have no idea how bored I was watching that game. But going back to Carlo Ancelotti, he had some interesting comments, and he sort of lashed out in his post-game press conference. Ancelotti said word by word, "Last year I was happy with some draws, but not today. We could have done much better. I don't want to make excuses. We just had to do better with more attitude. You can learn from these games. It's clear where the problem is. We started the game well, but it wasn't a good game. We need to defend better. We need more balance. We've said it before. We're very offensive, and the balance is essential." When Ancelotti was speaking a little bit about the front three, he said, "They swap positions sometimes. Sometimes one or the other occupies the position depending on how they are doing. The problem is that the team was too open. We have to concentrate more as we usually do. It's not a physical or mental problem. When we win the ball back, we all have to think about it together. You can think that is a problem for the forwards, but it could be a problem for the defense or for the midfielders. It's not a problem for 1, 2, or 3. It's a problem for a team that in this match did not understand that it was a key aspect. Mallorca played a great game defensively. The draw was correct, basically saying the result was deserved for Mallorca, which I agree. I thought they defended really, really well, and they created a few opportunities for themselves as well in transitions. Look, I have to say, when I was watching the game, I didn't really see no commitment, no attitude. I don't think the players threw the towel in or anything. Obviously, Ancelotti, he sees it better being the manager. I just think they just didn't move the ball fast enough. They were slow. The balance was off in the front three. Again, speaking, they didn't look comfortable. I thought Mbappe was pretty poor in terms of what you expect of him. Wasn't at his sort of level. Mbappe didn't really make many threatening runs in behind, didn't find themselves in dangerous positions. He made runs, but none of the runs were really, really led to any clear-cut opportunities or any sort of opportunity. Vinicius, I thought he was decent. I thought he created a few opportunities. He assisted the goal. But he wasn't his dominant self that we saw from last year. I thought defensively they were solid in terms of the back four. Dani Carvajal, he did his job. Didn't really provide much going forward, but he did his job. I thought the center back partnership of Rudiger and Militao was pretty solid, and it was good to see Militao back in after not playing a while for Real Madrid. He was a little bit shaky, but it's gonna take time for him post that ACL injury to get back to his best. Ferland Mendy, he ended up getting the red card, which we didn't even speak about. He got the red card. I didn't bring it up because it happened so late in the game. It wasn't a great factor. He defended really well. Him and Dani Carvajal defended pretty well, but didn't provide anything going forward. Which I guess made it a little bit more tricky for Vinicius and Rodrigo. I thought Valverde was actually pretty poor today as well. Wasn't at his best. Didn't make a lot of those runs that we see, those late runs into the box that we could see that makes him a threat to score goals. He wasn't clean in midfield a few times. Gave the ball away, and a few times he was done defensively. It's rare because I look at Federico Valverde as those like David Silva, not in terms of their style of play, which is completely different, but in the fact that they're always at least an 8 out of 10. Always an 8 out of 10. They never put on a bad show, and I thought Federico Valverde was rather poor today, and I don't think he was the only one. But again, this is a transition, but this is a Real Madrid team that, earned the benefit of the doubt, of the accomplishments that they've had as a group over the past few years. They've done more than enough to earn the benefit of the doubt, and I have no doubts that Ancelotti will be able to figure out the situation, whether it is, them just needing to, this front three needing to play more together to understand where they fit in the puzzle, or does he have to break it up and bring in either Brahim Diaz or Arda Güler, someone who's naturally left-footed in there to provide that balance? But I have no doubts that Ancelotti will be able to figure it out, and the problem will be solved, and they will get back to their ways. But I don't think they should be concerned, to be honest, that much. Show break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. before the break, I talked about how Real Madrid drew with Mallorca 1-1. We're going to move on to talk about some of the top soccer headlines. And the first headline I'm going to talk about is Gundogan has... Okay, there's multi-parts to this from Gundogan. There's multi-parts to this to Gundogan. I'm going to pull up exactly his statement real quick. It was a long statement. Let's open up. So Gundogan, he retired from Germany duty after 82 caps for Germany. He announced his retirement on social media on Monday. He was actually the captain of Germany at the European Championship this summer. He's played in 82 games for his country. So this is what he said specifically. After a few weeks of consideration, I have came to the conclusion that it's time to end my national team career. I look back with great pride on 82 international matches for my home country, a number I could never have dreamed of when I made my debut for the senior national team in 2011. My highlight was definitely the honor of being able to lead the team as captain at our home European Championship last summer. After all these years, we have finally managed to make the nation proud again. I'm very happy that I was able to play a part in that. But even before the tournament, I felt a certain tiredness in my body and also in my head, which made me think, and the number of games at club and my national level is not coming down. I will definitely continue to be a fan of this national team, and I really hope that we will continue the upward trend together. And then there is nothing to come. That there's nothing to stop us from being one of the prime contenders for the title at the 2026 World Cup. We have a fantastic coach, a real strong squad, and a great team spirit. Gundogan, he had a brilliant Germany career. Despite he was involved squads at a lot of major tournaments. Euro 2012, Euro 2012, Euro 2020, the 2018 World Cup, 2022 World Cup. He missed out on the Euro 2016 in injury, and he actually missed out on the 2014 World Cup through injury. He would have been on the team, but he was injured for that team. But he's been involved a lot. He's been a mainstay, and he's not going to be the only one that's retired. Thomas Muller actually announced his retirement a few weeks or so ago. After Germany were eliminated by Spain in the quarterfinals. And on top of that, Gundogan's club future, is also up in the air. With Barcelona, they've had registration issues, and Gundogan has expressed, according to reports in Spain, Gundogan has expressed that he wants to leave Barcelona before the end of the transfer window, only a year after being at the club. And there's also sources that say Manchester City could be keen on having his services back at the club. So that's interesting thing there. Santiago Jimenez is in talks with Nottingham Forest. Negotiations are on the way between Finer Wood and Nottingham Forest for Santiago Jimenez. Now I'm not the biggest fan on Santiago Jimenez. I've seen what he's done for Mexico. He's particularly not brilliant in terms of quality, in my opinion, but you can't argue with the production at Finerwood and Nottingham Forest is clearly looking at that. He's been very productive at Finerwood. 53 goals in 89 matches is a brilliant display. So, that could be an interesting addition for Nottingham Forest in their battle to stay up. Barcelona, interesting. Barcelona are actually, the word is studying for a move for Federico Chiesa, according to sources. They believe that it will only be around 14 million euros. That'll be the valuation that's needed to land Federico Chiesa. And yeah, Barcelona remain interested in him. They're getting a player on low value who's shown some high levels, especially going back to Euro 2021, but hasn't really been the same since then. If you're looking at Hansi Flick, maybe a player like him, his directness, you can get the best out of him. Now, Federico Chiesa is a very similar player to Nico Williams in terms of their player profile. So it'll be interesting to see if Barcelona can get it done. And if Chiesa, if that does get through, it will make it easier for Juventus to get Raheem Sterling, which sources say Juventus are making an inquiry over Raheem Sterling. The 29-year-old came out with a statement after not being involved even in the squad against City. After Enzo Maresca left him out of the whole squad. So, a move could be likely there for Raheem Sterling, especially if Juventus has inquired for him. And I think that's a perfect move for both clubs. Now, Raheem Sterling, it's a new project, it's an overseas project, it's still at a top club playing Champions League football under a new coach with a new vision. He has brilliant, he does have ability still, he's not completely out of it. He can play himself back into the England setup by being able to get quality minutes game in, game out. I think it's a perfect move for him to continue to playing at the high level. And I think it's a good move out of Juventus because Juventus, they need those sort of players that have quality at the club. Because, I'm looking at their starting 11 at Como, Vlahovic, Mbangula, Yildiz, Timothy Weah, Locatelli, Kferen Turan, Cabal, Bremer, Gatti, Cambiaso, Di Gregorio. It's a big fall off over where Juventus has been in the past. A player coming in like Raheem Sterling, he could be that sort of a leader, that talisman for you. He has ability to create opportunities. He's also a proven goal scorer at this level too. So I think it's a very good move for Juventus because they just need those sort of box office sort of players. I mean, I'm reading that starting 11 is very concerning. They were able to get the win 3-0 over Como, which, yes, is the most important thing. But Como's a newly promoted team. If you're really looking to challenge in Serie A, win, challenge in the Champions League, you need you need more ability there. Jamie Vardy, he's back in the Premier League. Leicester's back in the Premier League, and he's scoring goals in the Premier League. Getting the equalizer in the 57th minute, taunting Tottenham fans, doing what he does first. Jamie Vardy, it was a great signing, great sight to see, and it's brilliant to see him back. The atmosphere at the King's Power Stadium was absolutely electric. That's a club that's hoisted a Premier League before, so having them back into in the Premier League is absolutely brilliant. So great thing to see. Man United, they have came up with a new sort of strategy to be able to get Manuel Ugarte after not being able to afford PSG's or not being able to willing to pay PSG's 51 million euros asking price. And after signing Lenny Yoro, Matthias de Ligt, Joshua Zirkzee, and Nusar Mazraoui, they still have another big target. Their main target in Ugarte left. Their main target left. And United, they believe that the price point for Ugarte is too much, and they're willing to wait all the way up to the deadline to be able to get PSG to reconsider their asking price. United believe Ugarte is not part of PSG's plans, not part of Luis Enrique's plans, and they might be forced to sell him at the end of the deadline for whatever that they can get, and that and they'll be willing to wait until the deadline, according to these sort of reports. Now, if these reports are true, I don't know why you would leak your strategy like that. That makes no sense to me. But this is like good certified reporters that are reporting this news, so you have to say you can't deny what they're saying. Thierry Henry, he resigns from France's youth team after winning the silver medal at the Paris Olympics. He said, Thierry Henry said, "I have to thank the FFF and Philippe Diallo, the president of the FFF, who gave me this amazing opportunity. Winning a silver medal at the Olympics for my country will remain one of the proudest achievements of my life. I'm incredibly grateful to the federation, the players, the staff, and the supporters who allowed me to live out a magical experience." So yeah, Thierry Henry will not be the manager for France's youth team anymore as he looks for his next moves. I don't think winning the silver medal is really as big of an accomplishment as what he's trying to make it seem. Yeah, you could say it's a proud moment, but with the players that he had, in the combination that this was a home Olympic Games, and they were one of they were one of the main teams that took it very, very seriously as well. Well, to be honest, all the teams took it seriously, but I mean the fact that Spain didn't bring their best. France, they brought Michael Olise, they brought Jean-Philippe Mateta, Lacazette. They should have won the Olympic Games, they didn't, and I guess proud accomplishment for Thierry Henry. But yes, guys, that's thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a